today is Prime Minister Narendra Modi's 75th birthday. Wishes have poured in from around the world for India's second longest continuously serving Prime Minister. He leads in popularity across the globe with the highest approval rating among leaders of democracies all over the world. Prime Minister Modi's approval rating stands at a staggering 75% according to a recent global survey by a US-based data analytics firm. At 75, he remains unstoppable. Love him, hate him, but one cannot ignore him. Even his critics acknowledge the impact of his policies. His rivals attack him using the benchmarks set by him. His political journey has redefined politics for his party, his ideological mentor, government and India. The rise and the third term for the son of a tea seller to the pinnacle of power bespeaks the strength of Indian democracy. The BJP looks up at him because under his leadership, the party has moved from being a contender for power to the default party of power. As greetings pour in for the Indian Prime Minister, let's examine what makes him such a formidable political force. And to discuss it, I'm joined by Dr. V.K. Paul, member Niti Aayog. We also have with us Dr. Vikram Sampath, who is an author and a historian, and Mr. Suhail Seth, who is a columnist. Thank you very much, all of you, for joining us here on Times Now. To begin with, I want you to explain to our viewers, in your view, what makes him such a popular leader today?
Inspirational futurism. He's an inspirational leader, and he has planned many tomorrows and many day afters for India. And that's what leadership is about. Leadership is not about living in the present. Leadership is about imagining the future and preparing your people for it. Leadership is about inspiring people so that they can aspire. Leadership is about inspiring the commonest of the common, the youngest of the young, the oldest of the old, and ensuring that through that inspirational zeal, you set an example that people are not only willing to follow, but are delighted to follow. Leaders plan for tomorrow. People, ordinary people, plan for today. You've got two eminent people on the panel, Dr. Paul and Vikram. They will tell you that leadership is ultimately not about how many votes you win, but how many hearts you settle. Leadership is about how many people you align on a national grid of thought and deed, not about how many people you align on the basis of party's ideology. So Narendra Modi, to my mind, has risen above all of these and ticks all the boxes. Many years ago, on one of your summits, Times Now Summit, I talked about Brand Modi, where I said that it is important for people to understand that you don't necessarily have to agree with your leader. But many years later, the thoughts, the deeds, the inspiration of that leader will come to you in good stead. Go back in time, you're too young, you may not have even been born then. When Ronald Reagan became President of the United States, people laughed. Today, many years after his demise, and obviously demitting office, Ronald Reagan is seen as one of America's finest presidents. Leaders heal, but they heal through development. They don't heal through empty promises. That's what Narendra Modi has done. And to my mind, and I'm sorry that I took so long, if I were to define Modi, I would say that inspirational on the one side and future forward on the other. Because you can look to the future without planting seeds. Great leaders, as Jamshedji Naseerwanji Tata said, don't plant trees, they plant men and women. They equip them. They make them believe in themselves. And Modi has risen beyond the shores of India. Every Indian, whether he is in India or outside, of Indian citizenship or just of Indian origin, today feels proud. It takes a lot to be able to traverse this kind of geography. Sorry for taking so long.
No, but you've made some really interesting points, and clearly it's not about winning votes, it's about winning hearts. That's a very, very important point you made. I'm going to go across to Dr. Vikram Sampath now. What is your view?
Thank you, and no one can, be a better spokesperson after what Suhail has so beautifully and evocatively, I think, summarized. But for me, one word, if one could at all hazard a word for someone of the stature of Mr. Modi, I would say he's a Yug Purush. Someone who comes once in a generation or the history of a nation. There have been so many people in this long, stormy history of this country who have left a very indelible mark on the country. And Mr. Modi, when the history of this country is written, I'm sure this chapter of in the annals of India would stand out for that. And along with inspiration and aspiration that Suhail spoke about, I think Mr. Modi also leads by example. It is one thing to preach. It is also something to put in that hard work very visibly and to when all of us look back, 11 years ago, pre-2014, India on all parameters, whether it is internal security, it is the economy, and as Suhail rightly said, the very self-image of we as Indians, I think it is no surprise for anyone that we've made a huge 180-degree shift since then. And in this lies not just gimmicks or PR, which can only take you that far. There is a strenuous hard work led by the leader himself, and which is then transmitted down to the rest of the team. So a leader leads by example, and that's what Mr. Modi has done. And for someone like me who comes from the culture and the history background, these 11 years, people do keep talking about decolonizing and so on. But what does that entail? What all does that mean? How do you decolonize a mind which has had about 150, 200 years of, Macaulay's education and the, Western thinking that we've been so conditioned to? And these could be, some could call it symbolism, it could be a few name changes here, Rajpath becomes Kartavya Path, Lok Kalyan Marg, there is a image of Subhash Chandra Bose, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose at India Gate. So all this could seem for some people as symbolism, but then symbolism is what works in politics. Gandhiji understood it. The charkha actually did not win us freedom, or just making salt in Dandi did not win us freedom, but the very powerful imagery and symbolism that brought about. So along with some tangible efforts on cultural restoration, reclamation, identifying ourselves as a nation and people with pride by looking at our past, our civilization, our culture, without a sense of self-loathing that we were used to, especially after independence. I think that's been a paradigm shift in these 11 years, which is very palpable for every sane Indian who would like to see it. But if someone wants to always put on political lenses, that's another point. And I fully echo what Suhail said. In these days of vote chori and all of this that's going on, I think it is more of a dil chori that Mr. Modi does everywhere, and everything cannot be orchestrated. One must give credit where it is amply due to someone like him. And through you and through my fellow panelists and on behalf of the entire nation, if I may, we wish the Prime Minister a very, very happy birthday and many long years of health, happiness and service to this nation, which is his single-minded focus, or that's what I could gather in the couple of brief interactions that I've had honor and pleasure of having with him.
Well, I'd like to talk to you about those interactions as well that you've had with Prime Minister in just a bit. But before that, let me take the opening comments from Dr. V.K. Paul as well.
Well, greetings to the Honorable Prime Minister on 75th birthday. Well, I would say a visionary leader. A leader who has a vision for future of this nation, and a leader who thinks and delivers on the welfare of the common people. During his leadership as the Prime Minister over the last 11 years, on the one hand we see a vibrant, stable economy. Economic growth of our nation is the very best among large economies. That's one dimension. And the second dimension is what he has done, what his government has done for the common people. Whether it is about making houses, whether it is about Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, which has ensured our rural India to be open defecation free, whether it is about Jal Jeevan Mission, which is ensuring potable tap water in rural households all over the nation, from 17% and now above close to 80% and beyond. Ayushman Bharat, which is ensuring universal health coverage and addressing the problem of out-of-pocket expenditure. Primary healthcare through Ayushman Arogya Mandir, looking after the interests of our very special communities, the scheduled tribe communities, and particularly the particularly vulnerable tribal groups through PM Janman, PM Swanidhi Yojana, and so on and so forth. So he straddles both the worlds, creating wealth, creating strong economy on the one hand, and making sure that the benefits of this development pass on to the common people. And above all, his visionary leadership has galvanized all of us to work toward the goal of Viksit Bharat by 2047. This one mantra has changed the whole vibrance around the nation. He's given us a vision, he's given us the goal, he's leading for this goal to be achieved from the front, but more importantly, he's made it clear, and he's ignited the thoughts in all of us to think what I'm doing for the nation to be a Viksit Bharat by 2047 in my own life, in my own bandwidth of Kartavya. Truly visionary, truly a Yuga Purush.
Okay. Mr. Suhail Seth, you've said that when we look at Narendra Modi, there is no other equally comparing brand because he has allowed India and Indians to think big. Every time we have seen some kind of a crisis, he's turned that into an opportunity. When COVID came, he turned that into an opportunity. He started Make in India. Now, when exporters are likely to get impacted because of Trump tariffs, he's pushing for this, buy things from India, go global, but buy local. I mean, that's his mantra there. So, in your opinion, what will you say about Modi's brand of leadership? How is it unique? Do you think it's because he connects to people from all age groups, or as some say that it's nothing but PR?
In India, we have a problem for every solution. So don't go by what the average Indian and some of those jokers in politics say, because I don't buy that argument. It's a stupid argument. PR, fine. He didn't sneak through the back door. He won an election 3 times around as Prime Minister, and before that as Chief Minister. So all these chaps can spare me the homilies of saying, vote chori, all that nonsense. I don't care. I will tell you about strategy. Any brand is a brand worthy of its salt if it provides benefits. You don't buy Colgate. Your ultimate desire is to have good teeth. It so happens that in your mind, Colgate stands to deliver good teeth. Similarly, people have voted for Modi because they know that Modi will deliver, as Dr. Paul rightly said, and Dr. Paul led, and brilliantly so. Dr. V.K. Paul was the man, and he's being diffident. He was the man who led our entire COVID strategy. And he is the person who, along with the Prime Minister, ensured that India had the finest COVID track record in terms of both preventative as well as hospitalization as well as digital. So, let's not go into this, is it PR? Even if it is PR, so what? Let Rahul Gandhi do the PR. The point is, anger, whining, cursing is not a solution. Voters ultimately look for 3 things. They look for development, they look for security, and they look for safety. On all 3 parameters, Narendra Modi has done well. You talk about Make in India. I'm sitting in New York. I've abused Donald Trump more than any other human being I can imagine. Everyone warned me, they will not allow you in. That's rubbish. Point I'm making is, when Trump made those stupid statements about a dead economy and all, did Modi respond? No. Great leaders don't respond to stupid provocations because you don't fight with a pig. You get dirty, but the pig loves it. look at the way he has shown dhairya, and there is no better word than dhairya in Hindi that Narendra Modi has exhibited. And today what has happened? Trump congratulated him. Did Modi go out of his way to say, oh, look, see, I won? No. So there are 4 pillars of great leadership, and I've been blessed to have worked with some really brilliant and nice people, Ratan Tata being one of them. The first pillar of leadership is empathy. The second pillar of leadership is understanding. The third pillar of leadership is insight. And the fourth pillar of leadership is execution. If you have these 4 pillars, you're a great leader. If one pillar is not working, then there's a problem. Now you tell me, Make in India, Modi started way before the tariff crisis. Why? Because he wanted to move India from a country of labor arbitrage to a country of innovation. When Narendra Modi took over on May the 26th, 2014, India had 2 unicorns. Today we have 148. Earlier, we were known as a nation of either shopkeepers or we were doing IAS, IFS, IPS. Today, every young person has a dream which he can execute, a dream that he can live, a dream that he can aspire to. Our societies have the other point, which no one talks about, and I'm an atheist, so, I'm not promoting a Hindu cause or a Muslim cause. What have you done? You have brought back the civilizational legacy of India for people which had been forgotten at the altar of anglicizing our country. Who has done that? Narendra Modi. Now some people might say, oh, it's a Hindu agenda. So what? Let it be a Hindu agenda. Last year when he inaugurated Jane Khusro, which Muzaffar Ali does, which is the cradle of Sufism, he didn't need to. What did he say there? That Sufism has taught us the embedment and the embedding of secularism in our culture. I'm tired of people who pick little pieces from his speeches and then say, whatever they have to say. And, obviously Dr. Paul has worked with him closely. I've had some of the most amazing personal interactions, including a 1 hour, 55-minute one-on-one with him on June the 9th this year. So I know what the man is about. A, B. I've done 167 plays. I understand body language. I understand fareb kab hai or genuineness kab hai. And let me tell you, the man has remained unchanged. In September 2008, when I was with him at his home in Gandhinagar, at that time, he told me, Suhail bhai, kal kahan ja rahe hain? I said, Bombay. Tata sahab ko milenge? I said, haan. उनको बोलिए नैनो गुजरात में ले आए क्योंकि अब सिंगूर बंद हो गया. And I conveyed that message. And what happened? Nano happened in Gujarat. This is what leadership is about. It's about decisiveness. He didn't need to bring the nano to impress people in Gujarat, but he needed to bring the nano to Gujarat to make sure that Gujarat created another Detroit, which it has today. At that point in time in 2008, he gifted me a book on Gift City. On August 20 this year, at his, compulsions or his employment, I went and visited the Gift City. It is amongst the finest in India. So, as Dr. Paul and Vikram said, ultimately you will be known for what you do, not for what you say. Ultimately you'll be known for how many people you make proud, happy, fulfilled and self-reliant. And that's what Narendra Modi is and has done.
Very interesting. And Dr. Paul, you've been central to India's public health strategy. You were one of the key policy makers during COVID time in India's battle against COVID. It was a defining moment for every leader, every country. From a policy maker's lens, briefly, if you could tell us how instrumental was Prime Minister Modi's direct leadership in shaping India's response?
Well, I think it was there for the entire nation to see. If I summarize, it was a whole of government response which he engineered, and he made sure that the entire government was one in facing this once-in-a-century calamity. It was a whole-of-nation approach. We have seen him how he reached out to the chief ministers, the opposition parties, the entire council of ministers, repeatedly in the course of that very difficult phase. And then, actually speaking, it was whole of society response, which he crafted, he led from the front, and you would have noticed, all of us who are witness to that phase in our lives, that this was one nation which stood out on scientific principles. And the principles were then followed by the state government, they were followed by the society at large. You may recall that in one of his earlier telecasts, he came on the TV having a scarf, and वो वक्त ऐसा था कि अभी बहुत सारे हमें मास्क भी नहीं मिल रहे थे, N95 वो अर्ली फेज थी, और उन्होंने करके दिखाया कि आप तरीके से समझाया, हर सिटीजन को समझाया एज एन एल्डर इन द फैमिली कि जो हमें कोविड से बचने के लिए वी हैव टू कवर आवर फेस, कवर आवर माउथ, and he demonstrated this. And I think if you go back to that point in our history, how important that was and how critical it was and how effective it was. और फिर 2 गज की दूरी की बात उन्होंने उसी ब्रॉडकास्ट में उन्होंने कही. He led from the front. He mobilized us. He gave reassurance. And to us, who were part of the team, a large team in which we were playing our respective roles, his take was, इसको विज्ञान की दृष्टि से जो scientific approach है, उसको सामने लेके आप चलिए. And he gave us broad directions, and for us to then deliver on the jobs that we were assigned in that overarching response. विज्ञान से जो जरूरी है, साइंस जो कहती है, उसके हिसाब से आप स्ट्रेटेजी बनाया, और उन्होंने पूरी तरह से सपोर्ट किया. You may recall how he visited the vaccine manufacturers and what level of encouragement and it was to the scientific community, to the industry, as well as a reassurance to the people. So these beautiful strands of his leadership were uniting for all of us as a nation and as stewards, but also inspiring. And that, I think, was the basic ingredient that helped this nation to respond to that very, very devastating situation that we had. And today the world recognizes how effective we were and how as a society we handled this event with great degree of satisfaction. I'm truly privileged that I had the opportunity of his direct guidance during the course of that phase. But that also defines the other element that came out of it. For instance, you heard about Make in India, the Atmanirbharta slogan, emerged, and he repeatedly said that he believes that in every crisis there is an opportunity. He believed that what we do by way of creating countermeasures, such as the diagnostics and vaccine, वो मानवता के लिए है.
Right.
आप ये देखिए कि उस समय जब हमें वैक्सीन की जरूरत है, उन्होंने आयाम बड़ा किया, और वैक्सीन मैत्री के द्वारा अल्टीमेटली 101 देशों में देश का वैक्सीन गया. ये बड़ा दिल होना, लार्ज हार्टेडनेस, एंड द स्टेट्समैन लाइक थिंकिंग for serving the humanity beyond borders is one very, very important aspect that I am very, very humbled by when I look back on that particular aspect, where nations were locking their vaccines and were keeping it for themselves, but not making available. And it was true fortune to work during that period. But even in my other interactions, I like to say one important learning for the leaders. Suhailji has outlined very, very beautifully, eloquently the characteristics of great leaders. But I'll tell you one other characteristic that the Honorable Prime Minister practices on a daily basis. A great listener. He listens. He listens to the full narrative. He listens to the full presentation, full suggestion. He does not interrupt in the meetings in which discourse, policy level discourse happens. And then he encourages explanation. And then in the end he provides guidance. But to be a great listener is also, I think, a great characteristic of a leader, because as you evolve to take greater and greater responsibilities, if you are listening, you are imbibing ideas.
Right.
You are synthesizing ideas, curating ideas in your mind. I salute him for being a great listener and giving opportunity to his teams to offer the suggestion of our ideas to the best extent that we really desire so.
Okay. One last question, Dr. Vikram Sampath. In one of your social media posts, you've called him a man who's made of a different mold. So I want you to tell our viewers a little bit about the anecdote that you shared about how Prime Minister Modi was interacting with you and some others on the sidelines of an event, and that was just hours before Operation Sindoor happened.
Yes. Just before that, Heena, I'll just add to what Dr. Paul and Suhail have mentioned. I think this leadership quality comes not through classes, through theoretical understanding of the subject. I think 25 years of being in power apart in an administrative capacity, the background of about 35 years in the Sangh, literally going through the grind, meeting the people at the grassroots level. And that is why these slogans, Garibi Hatao, etc., they are not coming out of some air-conditioned room in Lutyens, Delhi. When he spoke from the Red Fort about the Shauchalay, the toilets for women, many people derided him, saying, is this something that a Prime Minister needs to talk from the Red Fort for an Independence Day speech? But only someone who's at the grassroots level understands, and whose own family, whose mother, etc., have gone through that humiliation or the trouble of having those smoky chulhas, they understand the meaning of what having a gas cylinder, having a toilet in the house for a woman and her dignity means. So experiential, lessons that come, and those translate into better leadership. As you mentioned, I had a couple of opportunities. I was not as fortunate as Dr. Paul, who's worked with him so closely, but the few opportunities that I got to meet him, the first one was in 2018. It was a very longish. Those days he would also call people from civil society who are not part of the party or the government and so on, to just take feedback. And there were a bunch of us who were at his residence, and like Suhail said, those meetings go on anything upwards of 2 to 3 hours. And I remember this was on 21st of June 2018, just after the yoga day. I think he'd had that, he'd come back from abroad, he had his yoga session, I think Dehradun or somewhere, and then there was so many other meetings, and for 3 hours this man at that age, sitting with rapt attention, and as Dr. Paul rightly said, whatever everyone was speaking, he was imbibing completely, and beforehand he knew our entire history, who we were, what we have said, what we have written. So there was a lot of planning with which you can't just come there and say anything, including a social media post someone would have done, even critically or so, he would remember that and hit that back at you as a jibe. I remember in that meeting, I was drinking water, and I just realized that the water in the bottle had gotten over. This man was listening to someone else making a presentation, and quickly he pressed the button and said, Vikram ji ke liye pani leke aaiye. So this attention for detail to somebody sitting around a table, that showed the empathy, that Suhail mentioned. And most recently was a couple of months, and this was at a news summit in Delhi. Some of us, he was the keynote speaker at the end, and that was the same night that Operation Sindoor was to be launched. And 3 hours before that, anyone else would be a bag of nerves. Finally, the buck stops at him. If even anything goes wrong, he is to blame as a leader of the country. And he was cool as a cucumber talking to all of us. It was myself, it was Amir Khan, a couple of other people. He's chit-chatting about some personal stories about Amir Khan's mother, how is her health. He asked me, what's your next book about? And and even in the course of the speech, none of them, and you journalists are so sharp to find out if there's anything amiss. I don't think anyone ever could dream that 3 hours later, India was going to strike Pakistan with such precision. And for a leader to be so cool, composed, not cancel his appointments, not give anyone, absorb all that stress himself, and deliver to. I think along with leadership, along with experience, this cannot happen without a very, very deep spiritual, power, some kind of spiritual process which he must be doing, meditation and otherwise, which I'm sure is a very personal and private affair for anybody. Without that spiritual part, a control of the mind to maintain equanimity in the face of stress.
Right.
These are all, I think, numerous life lessons that a lot of us who are outside can take as leadership lessons, which no B school will teach you.
Absolutely. Now, I said that was my last question, but one last question to each one of you. And here I'd request all of you to keep the answers like really short. I want all of you to tell me one perhaps slogan that that was given by the Prime Minister in last 11 years that you loved, or any policy, it could be anything, but just one thing. And he's 75, he's unstoppable. His eye is now on making India Viksit by 2047. So one reform that you think that he should really focus on. Let's start with you, Mr. Suhail Seth.
So I think Swachh Bharat was one of the most important because it brought back dignity, it brought back cleanliness, it brought back hygiene. In terms of future forward, it has to be Make in India.
Okay.
Because Make in India will make us reliant. Today, China is China because of Made in China. And we are way behind because we were happy replicating and being the labor arbitrage for the world. That has to stop.
Okay.
If India has such great software engineers, there's no business why we couldn't create our own Facebook or Google.
Okay. Dr. V.K. Paul?
Reform, perform, transform. I love this, and I want to, I try to do what is the essence of this mantra: reform, perform, transform.
Lastly, Dr. Vikram Sampath.
Yeah, I think my pick would be Vikas bhi, Virasat bhi, considering that I'm more, partial to that space where we are a civilizational nation and our importance cannot just be economic or military hard power alone, but also the soft power of our 7,000, 8,000 year old culture, civilization and history. In terms of futuristic, things which I feel should be the key focus. I think Suhail would also echo with this. We all come from cities which are breaking. Be it Gurgaon where he lives or Bangalore where I live. These are all cities which are the economic engines of this country. Mumbai, Bangalore, Pune, Hyderabad, Delhi, Gurgaon. I think on an urgent basis, like how it is in New York and so on, you have to have a metropolitan administration to give cities their due. If cities thrive, then the whole state, all the villages thrive and the country moves forward.
Interesting. Thank you very much, all of you, for joining us. It was wonderful speaking with you, and our viewers, of course, learnt a lot with your experiences with the Prime Minister and his leadership style that makes him really different and quite popular across the world. Thank you very much for joining us.